So, guys, alright, this time we'll be going over Chapter 10 of the Roman Legacy, or The Gathering of Soldiers, Part 1. So, Chapter 10 is after Chapter 9, which is, I think it was food and chores. I don't know, I forgot. And here's a disclaimer for you to see. So, yeah, well, that's it, and after that, I'll continue on with reading the book right away. Chapter 10 Suspicious Findings. Ah, fresh air! Lucius stretched his arms in happiness as he got out onto the ship's main deck. I know, right? It was quite musty down there, Passio said. To their surprise, they were the first ones from their group who were finished. Apparently, others were still stuck in the lower deck doing the chores. Therefore, they all stood by on the left side watching the river flowing beneath the ship. Ephraim, when we get back to our base, I would like us to have a discussion about improving our platoon. That means all of us. Everyone in archers, crossbowmen, and gunners, Commander Kairos said as they were looking down at the river. Yes, Commander. I agree that we were lacking platoon meetings for a long time, so thanks for deciding upon a day to do it. Do you need any help in preparing the necessary materials? Ephraim said. Commander Kairos shook his head. No need. Just be ready to talk about the improvements that you guys are seeking, and that'll be enough of help. Lucio tapped on Commander Kairos' shoulder. Commander Kairos, are we going to talk about our recent findings? Commander Kairos sighed. I wouldn't think so, but just have the documents ready in case we do talk about it. Yes, of course. I can't wait, Lucio said. Suddenly, Apacios felt something, and he proceeded to go on the forecastle of the ship to see where they were headed. Lucio looked at Apacios walking away. Where are you going, Apacios? Apacios glanced back. I just want to go up to the forecastle. Commander Kairos noticed that Lucio wanted to follow Apacios. Hey, Lucio, go with him if you want. He pointed at Apacios. We'll wait down here. Really? Thank you, Commander. Lucio rushed up to catch up with Apacios. Within a moment, Apacios and Lucio were already climbing the forecastle and they immediately went towards the front edge to look around the area. There were a few soldiers loitering around, doing similar things that Apacios and Lucio were doing. Look ahead. Do you see those two ships way over there on the left side of the river? Apacios pointed at the ships for Lucio to see. Geez, calm down. You don't need to speak so loud. Lucio turned to look at the ships. Yeah, I see them. So what? Apacios shrugged. I don't know. I just feel that they should be there. What do you mean they shouldn't be there? Lucio glanced at Apacios. They're ships just like ours, so they'll be on the river or sea. And you're acting weird right now. Apacios took a deep breath. Hey, I'm serious. All I'm trying to say is that we should try our best to move as far away from those ships. They seem very suspicious to me. Ah, I don't think so, because look, they aren't even sailing but are docked at the shore. They're not a threat to us, Apacios. Lucio smirked. Apacios looked at Lucio for a while. Trying to be a tough guy, huh? Then how do you explain those people who are going onto those ships? They could be Turkish Navy troops. What kind of Navy troops walk around wearing ordinary clothes, especially when they're on the march? You're such an imbecile. Look at them, they're not even hustling, Lucio said. Apacios grimaced at Lucio. Gosh, you really want to start this, huh? It's not cool calling me an imbecile. You really love escalating situations, low-minded brat. Lucio clenched his right hand and stomped it on the guide rail of the ship. It's you who started up a weird conversation by speaking out loud and talking about such irrelevant stuff, you stupid pig. By now, Apacios decided to try to ignore him by remaining silent, but Lucio just wouldn't give up. Ha, just choosing to lose like that. Your dad, probably a massive drunkard, taught you. And here you are, a puny loser who talks about random things all the time. After shaking his head, Apacios stared at Lucio in disgust. Oh, you don't talk about my dad like that. How dare you? He clenched his hands. You, mindless fool. You aren't even good at a conversation. That's why I have to get it going all the time when I'm with you. You know how tiring that is? He then growled in anger. And even worse, you follow me around at all times. So it's like a nightmare. Lastly, if you're following me around just to argue with me, then leave this place, you son of a wretched mother. Lastly, he turned around from Lucio and looked at the river. When he finished his last word, Passios felt a spike of emotion coming directly from Lucio. A moment later, he knew that he had made a grave mistake, for his emotion was such as he had never felt before from Lucio. Not even during the times when Lucio was seemingly furious. The previous anger suddenly turned into uncertainty for Apacios, and he slowly turned to look at Lucio. I had enough with you! Lucio immediately threw a punch at Pacios' left cheek. Pacios had no time to brace for the impact, so he immediately fell backwards by the impact of the punch. He was shocked. He had never been punched like this before in his life. Even his past teachers never punched him like this. It, it was full of negative emotions and wasn't like anything he had ever felt before. The time started going very slowly, and when he looked up at Lucio, it seemed like he was looking at a devil instead. He suddenly became very scared and his body became cold. He couldn't do anything, especially when Lucio's face was really red from anger. Then Lucio proceeded to punch him again, so Apacios closed his eyes and shielded his face with his arms. Ahem! Both Apacios and Lucio heard it, and they stopped their actions. When Apacios opened his eyes again, he could see that Lucio stopped wherever he was like a statue, and some ways to Lucio's left. Apacios could see that there was one of the bodyguards of Lord Pericles watching them. Apacios remembered seeing him from somewhere. Also, Ephraim had told him once that those bodyguards are oftentimes called as Lord Pericles' Big Three. Hey, soldier, what's your name? Pacios thought the guard was asking about his name, so he attempted to speak. I'm. No, not you. Him. The guard pointed at Lucio. By then, every hint of anger from Lucio's face disappeared, and it turned into fear. Lucio, sir? Lucio stuttered very much. Sir? Is that how you address me? The guard raised his eyebrows. No, Commander. Lucio stuttered even more this time. Okay, but look at me when I'm talking to you. The commander moved a couple steps closer to Lucio. Lucio slowly turned around to face the commander. Pacios noticed that both of Lucio's legs were trembling, and when the silence continued, Lucio's whole body was trembling. Now, tell me, is that how you resolve your disputes with your comrade? The commander stared down at Lucio. No, Commander. Lucio seemed to have eased down by now. After a while of silence, the commander looked behind him. Hey, Kairos, you take Lucio from here. I'll take his comrade for a while. The commander motioned at Lucio to get away. Pacios just realized that Commander Kairos was standing some distance away from the commander, almost at the other end of the upper deck of Forecastle, who possibly had watched everything. Lucio awkwardly walked away from Apacios, and when he had walked off, the commander approached Apacios. Now, soldier, what's your name? I'm Apacios. Commander. Apacios didn't make the same mistake that Lucio made a while ago. The commander simply nodded and motioned him to follow him. They eventually went back down into the main deck and were heading towards the stern castle. You're bleeding quite badly. That was one heck of a punch that Lucio guy gave to you, Commander said. Yes, that was the first time. Please don't punish him. He's my friend. We already get enough punishments during our exercise routines. It was only then that Apacios realized his mouth was full of blood, so he spit it out into the river. The commander glanced at Apacios. Interesting. They soon walked into the stern castle. Commander, if I may ask, what's your name? Apacios looked at the commander. I'm Proteus. Commander Proteus. Commander Proteus said. Something clicked in Apacios' mind when he heard Commander Proteus saying his name, but he didn't know why. When he looked around, he noticed Seth reading his book with two other soldiers sitting around him at a table. Commander Proteus called him, and he came forth to see blood stains on Apacios' mouth. Gosh, Apotheos, who did this to you? Seth gazed at Apotheos' mouth. Apotheos rubbed his mouth. Lucio punched me. But it's not a big deal, don't worry about it. Seth's mouth opened wide in shock. Don't worry? Dude, that guy, Lucio punched you hard. Honestly, I don't like that guy, and I really don't like him now. Seth, don't mind Lucio. Just do your work, Commander Proteus said. Yes, Commander. Seth led them to the medic's room. As they were walking, the two soldiers asked Seth when he's coming back, so Seth told them not long, and continued on his way. When Seth was done giving Apotheos proper treatment, Commander Proteus was writing something down, so Apotheos decided to ask him, Commander Proteus, what are you doing right now? Oh, just writing about a casualty that happened, Commander Proteus said. Do you have to do it? Apotheos tried to look. Commander Proteus showed his writing to Apotheos. Yes, commanders and captains have to do this and report the writings during the headquarters meetings, so that we can find out who tends to be more violent. It's strange, though. That Lucio guy is never the violent type. He's strange and gives off an eerie feeling, but has never raised his fist to anybody. So I'm pretty sure Pericles would let him pass this time. Phew, that was close, Apotheos said. Commander Proteus glanced at Apotheos. I don't get it. What do you worry about him getting punished? Shouldn't you be sad that he's not getting punished? I mean, he did you wrong. Apotheos flinched back. No, it's not like that, Commander. He's the only one who is about the same age as me in this organization, and also the only one whom I can personally relate to during physical training sessions. He and I are always the ones lagging at the end, and getting punishments together, so I feel like those are enough already. Commander Proteus nodded and chuckled. Yeah, I see now. After that, they talked for a long time regarding Apotheos and how he had made it to the organization. Commander Proteus shared some of his life as well, so they could get to know each other better. Then the talk came to an end. That was a great discussion, Apotheos. Thanks for talking with me. Commander Proteus said. Well, I didn't do anything great, but something that I do in my daily life, Apotheos said. Don't think it like that, because sometimes it's harder to do something mundane as talking with each other, especially when it comes to new recruits. They fear us in the higher ranks, so that they have a hard time talking to us or even making an eye contact. We try our best to reach out to our lower ranking soldiers and talk to them so that they realize that we're humans too, not only cold blooded upper masters without any care about the troops' well being. So thanks, I really mean this one. Commander Proteus held out his hand. As they were shaking hands, Apotheos realized that he had seen Commander Proteus before at the fight near the wagons. Hold on. Are you the commander who came to my group's rescue? Apotheos said, asked him carefully. Hmm. Can you tell me who's in your group? Commander Proteus said. I was fighting with Captain Thomas, Officer Ephraim, and engineers by the wagons. Commander Proteus clapped his hands once. Oh, that time. Yeah. I was the commander who led the heavy melee infantries to the last fight by the wagons. So, you were the fresh recruit, huh? Yeah, I was. Passius put his head down, remembering such awful moments. You were seriously lucky at that time. Even more so because you were with Thomas and Ephraim. I tell you that they're not ordinary soldiers. Commander Proteus nodded as if he knew something about them. Just think of it as a blessing that you were with them during such a fight. What do you mean they're not ordinary soldiers? Passius looked up at the commander. Commander Proteus thought for a while placing his hand on his chin. They are the men of their words. That's as far as I feel like telling you. Anyways, it's more interesting to get to know them on your own. Understood? Passius thanked him for the answer and later left the room with the commander. Okay, I'll go see what Pericles is doing right now. You should go on with Seth, Commander Proteus said, and he left the hall first. Passius realized that Seth was sitting by himself now and napping. Passius shoved on Seth's shoulder. Seth, wake up. Huh? Oh gosh, I fell asleep. What took you so long? Seth slowly sat up straight. Oh, I was just talking to Commander Proteus. It's interesting though. I thought all of Lord Pericles' bodyguards went to the other ship. Passius said. Um. Oh. Yeah, I remember now. At the last moment, he decided to get on our ship too, because there were a substantial number of melee guys on our ship, meaning that he wanted to take some burden off of Lord Pericles and leading them during a possible fight. So that's why he's traveling on our ship, Seth said and shook his head fast to get himself fully awake. Let's get out then. Pasius started walking out. Suddenly, Seth told him to stop. Pasius, you don't seem alright today. Did something happen out there in the town? Well, of course, we fought in those streets. Pasius didn't look back at Seth. No, that's not it. You aren't the same after that looting time. Pasius looked back and thought about whether to tell Seth or not. No, I just raided the main street with Ephraim. Pasius took the easy way out. Seth looked at him for a long while before slowly getting up. Seth sighed for a while and followed him back out to the main deck, and eventually they came to where Thomas and Ephraim were playing dice game and gambling against other soldiers. Therefore, they sat around them to watch, just as Officer Kai, Edwin, and Andel were doing. Let's go, Captain Thomas! Edwin cheered when it came to Thomas' turn. As they were watching, Commander Kairos and Lucio walked towards them. Pasius noticed them but didn't say anything since it was such an awkward event on the upper deck. Commander Kairos silently sat next to Apasius, and Lucio sat next to Commander Kairos. The awkward silence ensued for a while, and Commander Kairos stood up to go somewhere else. So it was just Apasius and Lucio remaining in that area. Apasius slowly took a peek at Lucio, and it seemed Lucio was peeking at him as well. After a while, Lucio slowly moved while sitting down and came right next to Apasius. That time, I'm sorry, Lucio whispered shyly into Apasius' ear. It's fine, Apasius whispered back. Another awkward silence continued, and nobody spoke any more after that, nor did they have anything to say to each other. Apasius didn't really remember what happened after that. Therefore, he continued along the journey with everyone else. For the next 4 days, the ship the two ships sailed down the river, stopped for a while at the Genoese colony of Amastris to take a small break, and sailed along the Paphlagonian coast. The story will continue on Wednesday afternoon when they reach Sinop, the city on the northernmost tip of Anatolia. Alright, so that's about it. I mean, in those old days, like, ships took a while to travel, like, even seemingly, like, not so far away places like traveling within your own country. Still, it still took a good enough time for them, like to ranging upwards to like many days. So that's what I really had to consider while writing this book because as the story moved on, I wanted the soldiers to be in their home base on certain days and leaving the base on certain days, so like that. So there was lots of planning and lots of considerations for this book, and that's why it took as long as 6 years for me to revise everything. So revisions are not like revising typos. It's revising all the story flows to see if they match or not. So thank you for listening, and I'm going to continue on to the next chapter with the next video. So see you.